It was an irony. You know that he was up there in that room looking through that scope, watching us do that.
We actually were having so much fun before everything happened, and then horror, terror, blood, screams.
It is a 3-day festival, top country artists that come in and play. It runs from like 4 to 11 or midnight.
Real cross-section of people there, young, old, seem all races.
This is the first time I had gone. The venue was wonderful, and just to be with my friends.
And it was kids and children and, you know, everybody was there. It's a family event.
It was a night without our kids, and you know, it was kind of like our first date again. So,
well, I was working. It was a great day, great music. I mean, nobody arguing, everybody's having a good time.
And you had worked all weekend this concert?
No, that's the funny thing. That was my night for that Sunday. And the thing is, they weren't going to use me because I had the wrong colored tennis shoes. They're like, well, just hold off and we'll see if we can use you. I'm like, all right, so I just waited.
So they almost sent you home.
One of the ladies, she was like, I can use some big guys, and she goes, I go with her. I'm like, all right, and everybody goes like, well, you must have been there for a reason. I'm like, I don't know.
It was our third day at the concert, so we went to the back. Probably the first time that we sat in the back to watch the concert. Usually we were up in the front, dancing, having a good time. But, you know, it was Sunday night, we were flying out the next day. Jason Aldean was the last act.
Me and my husband had just gotten back from the stage. Like, we went up to the stage and we gotten a drink at one of the bars that were up there.
It was getting late. It was about 10 o'clock, and at one point I even thought about leaving because I was tired. It was the third day. But it was a beautiful night, and Jason Aldean came out and things were rocking.
I was in the VIP area where we were working at. When the entertainer Jason came on, before the shooting, I remember he asking, where's all the veterans at? Where's all my, soldiers in the crowd? Where's the police department? We need to quit being disrespectful to the flag and start saluting the flag. That's what he said. And he said, we're going to sing this song for you. Everybody raise your beer up and raise your lights up. That's why it was really, really dark at that time, because it was like a dedication kind of song.
I was over by concessions, so I was about 100 yards from my main group, the other 9 or 10 people that were with me. And I had just went over there for a beer and was kind of standing and watching things from the side. And Jason Aldean, I think, started his second or third song.
And we heard a bunch of noise, and it sounded like fireworks. And I said, wow, that's weird that fireworks would be going off as he's actually singing the song.
But I knew right away that there were gunshots, and I told him, those are gunshots.
she knew right away that they were gunshots, and I was what you call a deer in the headlights. I was lost, and I didn't believe it. I was like, no, that's not gunshots.
I was sitting next to my friend Jerry. He said, those aren't fireworks, those are gun rounds. And he said, they're coming from over there. And he pointed over towards the strip, and I thought, oh, it's probably gang related, the police are gonna take care of it.
I looked at my husband and I grabbed his hand and I asked him, what drunk idiot would set off a brick of firecrackers in a crowd of people? And my husband, I'll never forget the look on his face, because it was like he knew it wasn't firecrackers or fireworks.
We were all just kind of looking around like, who the heck is doing fireworks right now? And we're like, okay, where are the fireworks? You know, because you expect to see like something in the air by that point. And we're looking up like, okay, what the heck is that?
My thoughts were it was just a confrontation out on Tropicana Boulevard. And then the concert resumed.
Jason Aldean paused for a second, and the music, you could tell they missed their chords. But then he started back up, and people seemed to be fine, so I thought maybe a speaker was acting weird.
We heard like 6 shots first, different caliber. And then we're looking up, nothing. Then all of a sudden, then another caliber came out all with a ping sound. I'm like, no, that's not fireworks. That's a gun.
We knew something was going on, but we were just not reacting quite yet. And then once Jason Aldean ran off stage, we kind of really knew something was really serious.
I looked back at my friend, and our other friend had already said that that's gunshots. It was like her face was just, it was just, her eyes were teared up. And I knew that it was bad.
And then I could see the crowd starting to move. They were moving towards me because the crowd was between me and Mandalay. So at that point I knew it was gunfire.
What I saw was basically the front of the stage getting shot up pretty good. The screens where they showed the video of the concert going on so people in the back could see what actually the artist is doing was getting shot up on the right-hand side.
I was staring at, I guess he was on-duty officer, but he was in the vest. I saw him draw his gun, duck down, and start running straight towards Mandalay Bay. And I was like, what the heck is going on? It felt like it was slow motion. And I looked over to the right at the rest of the lounge, and it was one of the guys. He was wearing like the Village t-shirts, like he was one of the volunteers. It's almost like he made eye contact with all of us at the same time, and he was like, those are gunshots, get down, everybody get down. And that's when like it all hit us.
After 3-4 minutes went by, that's when it hit me, no, this could be a terrorist attack. Like I said, we didn't know where it's coming from, but it sounded very close. And I was calling my daughter and leaving them a video in case something happened. We don't know what's going on, but somebody is shooting at this event that I'm working at. And we don't know who, or is it a terrorist attack or what. But just in case I don't make it out, I just want you to know I love you.
We thought there were multiple shooters. The way that it sounded, the difference from the first volley to the second volley, I can't explain it, but it sounded differently than the firecracker round, the first round that went off. And we started to run, not knowing where we were going to exit, because the only exit we knew of was the main entrance and exit.
Were more people running or hiding?
None of us expected it to be coming from 32 stories up. We thought at ground level. So I think that most people got down to try to avoid the gunfire that way.
I witnessed my best friend, Natalie Grumette, being shot in the face.
I saw Natalie get shot, and Natalie's blood all over me, and then hearing my sister scream, I'm shot, I'm shot. She was bleeding all over the place. her. She kept saying, my side, I'm shot in my side. And I was like, no, you're not, because there was no blood. The bullet had lodged. So there was no blood. It was stuck. Thank God the bullet didn't go any further or come out, because that could have been a very worst case scenario.
You shielded your body to protect your wife.
It was just natural instinct. I think when you love and you care for somebody so much.
We were on the floor and he put his body on top of me. I just told him, I don't care if it's not gunshots, I just want to leave now. I don't want to be here anymore. And he said, okay. And he got up. And the moment that he got up is when he got shot.
I got struck in my back left armpit and it shot out the front of my chest. I got really mad and angry and I cursed because I knew somebody shot me, and I was just screaming at whoever it was. I didn't know who it was, but I just knew I was shot. And
I was in shock. I couldn't move anymore. He was trying to get me to talk to him and I couldn't, and he just grabbed my hand and he just told me, I got shot, I need you to run. Don't stop running. And I couldn't move. I didn't even respond to him, and he's like, are you listening to me? I need you to run.
It was a nightmare. We were at a war, and it just felt like it's people after us right now.
Hey, some guy ran back there, you see him? I don't know.
Our group said to get down, but the seats were so small. They were like little tiny stadium seatings, but they were very small. And so getting down meant what are you gonna do? You're still exposed. I had 11 friends and I was alone. I didn't know where anybody was. I sent out a text to my family. We have a group family text. There's 25 of us on it, and I just said, shots fired, I love you. Sorry. The guns were just the noise. It sounded like a machine gun, and it just wouldn't stop. And it started to hit the bleachers and ricochet off. And I just lay down on the ground. I knew that it was gonna hit me for some reason. I just felt like it was gonna hit my back. And I didn't think it was fair because I just had a grandchild.
Everything is going through our heads, but at the same time, we're having that moment where it's just we're gonna die. We're gonna die tonight. Luckily, there was a good amount of space in between the bleachers, but we were practically laying on top of each other. Everybody who was in that row, I'm looking down and I see a lady who had been shot on her abdomen on the left side, and she was laying flat on her back. She was alone, and I couldn't reach her. We were 6 to 8 feet elevated from the ground, and she was laying on the ground, and I couldn't see if she was okay. I couldn't tell if she was dead or alive, breathing or anything. I couldn't even call out to her. I just stared at her. I just remember seeing her laying there and thinking, wow, there's literally gunshots flying all over us.
Shots fired at the fucking concert. My daughter! Where the fuck is that coming from? Where is it coming
I was on the west side of the concert. So I was closest to where the gunman was shooting. His exact location I did not know. And that's a very fearful thing because you don't know, nobody knows where the gunfire is coming from.
Did you see anybody get shot?
Yes, a lot of people got down on the ground. And so it was hard to tell who was shot and who was just on the ground for cover. It's a feeling of helplessness. No matter what you do or where you run, you don't know if you're going to get hit. There was no point of safety.
I had no idea where any firing was coming from. In fact, even when I got behind the bleachers, I didn't know if there was a shooter up front walking our way. You know, I didn't know what was going on.
And we just kept going until we made it over to the front of the stage. And then we hid in between two speaker boxes with gunshot just firing the whole time.
I had tied a tourniquet with my my flannel and my sister's headband and around my arm. And so I had tried to stop the bleeding as much as I could. And while we were running, that's when I started to feel that my body was losing control of itself for a minute.
We made it under to the stage, and that's when we had a brief minute. She was able to call her husband and call my husband and say our goodbyes to our family, because we thought that was goodbye.
Very chaotic scene. I mean, people running, people screaming, some huddled around people that had already fallen.
Is there one moment that you will never forget?
Is when I was holding my friend's hand and I saw a body and blood laying there and I had to jump over it. And there was nothing I can do to help because your first mind was to just run. And it's a lot of guilt because the guilt comes from we wish, well, I can't say for everybody, but for me, I wish I could have turned back around and helped more people.
Do you think it was better for people to run or hide?
Definitely run, but like I said, we didn't know where it was coming from. But coming from the outside looking in, laying down just made it worse, you know, because the way the lights came on at the concert, when he started shooting, the lights came on, where now you can see the target just laying down like that.
And some people criticize that because if the lights are on, then he can have a clearer look on who to shoot at.
Right. But I guess they were trying to figure out, with the lights coming on, maybe where's this person is shooting at, or they can see better. I don't know.
It's like a total war zone. I'm like, what is going on here? You know, and then I started seeing a lot of people running around like not knowing where to go. So I opened the gate and had everybody come out.
There was really no safe place in the venue to go.
Come on!
My husband and I were able to stay together. We were running and we got over probably 2 or 3 fences, and I heard someone crying and screaming my name hysterically. And I looked to my left, and about 30 yards away was my best friend. She'd been separated from her husband, and we were all in the large group, like I said, about 15. We'd all been separated, and my friend was running by herself. And the look of panic and fear and terror on her face.
No, get down! Get the fuck down! Those aren't shots! Those aren't shots! Run! Those are shots! Run! Don't look!
Run! Go! Run. Go! Go! Everybody go! Go! Run! Keep your head down! Go! Keep your head down! Go! Run! Keep your head down!
Covered my wound and grabbed Kimberly, and we ran.
At the moment that we started running, everybody started running.
Keep your head down! Run! Go! Keep your head down! Go! You guys go! Get up and go! Go! Are you fucking serious?
Let's go!
Get up! Run! Go! Get up!
Let's go! Get up!
Get up on your feet! On your feet!
Let's go! I'm with you! Sister, let me help.
On your feet!
Here. Thank you. Get down.
This lady started following us, and she got hit in the face by a bullet, and she fell. Her lifeless body just fell, and that's when I started talking. Now, it basically me seeing her die, like it woke me up.
Fire! Electric! Oh my God! You're a rebel! Watch out! Watch out! Watch out! Come here, man! Come on!
So I rounded the corner and it just kept getting closer. And right at the base of the bleachers, there were two girls. They were laying down. I didn't know if they were hurt. So I jumped over them, which was maybe 4 seats in front of my wife and friends. And because by then the noise was so close, I just knew it was. So I jumped over them and laid there. And I remembered thinking to just, if I get hit, make it be not a major organ. And then I could hear the bullets hit the metallic bleachers, tink, 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 6 or 8 of them bounced up, and then the shooting stopped. So I got off of the 2 girls. I asked them if they're all right, and they said, yeah. What do we do? What do we do?
We ran into Loser's tent. Everybody was in there hiding behind the bar. The gunfire's still going off. And my boyfriend's a sergeant with Metro. We were there. He wasn't working. Pulled out his badge, and he's telling everybody in the tent when the gunfire stopped that time that we had to get out of there, that, you know, that bar wasn't going to stop the bullets, and if he shot into that tent, we were all dead. So I'm calling 911. I can't get through. So I threw a post on Facebook real quick saying, you know, shots fired from Mandalay Bay.
How were you able to know that it was coming from Mandalay Bay?
Because I saw that blinking light on the 10th floor, well, which was actually the 6th floor because I didn't count the bottom.
But the shots came from the 32nd floor.
I know, but it was explained later. It was either a strobe light or a reflection, but it was just weird. When that second series came out, I happened to be looking at Mandalay Bay, and so as it was firing, it was like, and that light was going. So I wholeheartedly believed, and that's why I said I posted on Facebook. I mean, I have 1,200 friends, and I'm like, somebody will see it, tell the police where it's coming from, because I couldn't get through to 911.
I never go to the Mandalay Bay. Never at that time at 10 o'clock at night, and I just happened to drop off from the airport across the way, and I came over and I thought, you know, let's see what's going on, and I wanted to look at something on Facebook, so I'm sitting there looking on Facebook, and then we would move up just 1 or 2 cars, and so there I was, you know, still sitting there at the Mandalay Bay when I should have gone back to the airport.
Something's going on.
And all the taxi drivers, we were just doing whatever, just, you know, sitting there. It wasn't very busy that night, so we were just minding our own business, waiting for us to keep moving up in the taxi line. I just thought it was jackhammering. And yeah, they do have jackhammering at night because it's, you know, it's warm.
You know, for there being gunfire, sure doesn't seem like people are running. Oh, shit. Seriously, I don't know what's going on.
Never in the front of my mind, the back of my mind, anywhere, never did I think that it was somebody shooting and killing people across the street at a festival. Where are the cops at? I'm right here by the porch at Mandalay Bay and everything just seems to be normal here. But I finally did pull out a line, even though the other taxi cabs were already there, went underneath where the valet is, and everybody's just standing around. Some dude sitting there smoking a cigarette.
Lots of medical there. Do not go to Mandalay Bay. Stay away from there.
All right, I'm leaving. This is ridiculous. I don't know why people aren't leaving. This is insane. Everybody's just standing around. It doesn't seem like anybody's moving. It seems like it's coming.
What happened, Mandalay Bay driver? What happened? Full shots fired. They don't even know the details yet. I just talked to Metro over here at the airport. They're still getting the details, but there's multiple injuries.
You guys, there's
and
shots fired.
That's all they're telling me. They're not telling me anything other than that. They just said stay away from there. They're shutting the whole place down.
All right, this is crazy. I don't know.
So the night goes on, and I saw that you picked up a lot of people.
I did, yeah. I picked up 5 people, and they all crammed into the back of my cab. People running. Shooting at the festival across from the Mandalay Bay. Please try to stay away. All right, so now you got people running. You got people climbing over the fence there.
Peter said it was across the street at the festival by Mandalay Bay where they have that festival going on, so that could be one of them.
Yeah, you got people climbing over the fence here at the festival and people running around. All right. Oh, okay.
Broken leg.
Broken leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What happened?
Anywhere.
Is there somebody up there?
Head down.
Yes, after
Head down. You know what's happening.
All right.
Look over your head.
Go. Okay. All right. Oh God, there is an active shooter. Okay.
So many people are dead.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding. Go.
All right. No. All right.
Not too many, bro.
Okay, close the door. Close the door.
I'm trying to.
Go.
Okay.
Lock the door.
Please.
Close the door. Is everybody in?
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. I'm going. Okay. Oh shit.
Can you do it as fast as you can?
Yeah. Where are we going? The first 2 people that got in, they said, broken leg. She's got a broken leg. And I said, okay, get in. You want to go, where you want to go? And they're all, just drive. And then I guess all these other people started, 3 other people got in. And they're like, go. And they were just scared out of their minds. No, I'm not going anywhere to the Luxor.
Just get the fuck out of Vegas.
Oh my God.
Keep driving out of town.
Seriously, thousands of people are dead. Everybody's bloody.
You're kidding.
No joke. Just drive.
I'm driving. There's people in the street. All right.
I'll hold your hand.
All right. Get out of the way. Good Lord. Okay.
No shit.
All right, I'm going. All right, this is a really serious situation. I've got a bunch of people in my cab from that festival.
Everybody's shot.
And there's thousands shot. All right, okay, I'm going. We're going. We're getting out of here. Yeah.
We live literally probably 5 miles away, and I actually can see the strip from my house, and I could see helicopters flying that general direction. You hear cop cars, you hear ambulances. It was just chaos, utter chaos. When we received a phone call from one of our employees that shots were fired on the strip, we turned on the news, nothing had happened yet, nothing was said. Went to social media, on Facebook, and we noticed some posts of saying shots fired, gunshots heard at Mandalay Bay. Then proceeded to check on my wife's phone, who has closed circuit cameras on her galleries that she works at, and Pulled up the Mandalay Bay Gallery and we noticed people running down the hallway, people running into the store, hiding behind desks.
That night I was working in the casino, in the store there. One of my other coworkers calls me up to let me know that there's a shooting going on across the street. So I'm on the phone with him now and I think he's playing a prank on me. I'm like, you're playing with me, man. He's like, no, I wouldn't joke with you about something like this. So I go to the computer and I start to look it up. I am looking up, the Route 91 festival and what's going on, and there's nothing on it because it's happening right now. And so then I get a customer come in and start asking me questions, and it takes my mind off of it for a second. 2 more people come in and they come in, hey, there's an active shooter going on. We have to hide. So my instinct was to rush the people that are in the store. There's 4 people and then me, so 5 people in total. I rushed us all out through the back of the store into the storage room that's back behind the shops.
I was standing on Las Vegas Boulevard and there was 2 officers standing about 10 feet from me, and so I looked at them and I said, it's gunfire, right? And so they started walking towards Mandalay Bay and I started walking that way also. And so I just grabbed my phone and just kind of held it up.
You got to take the cat. You gotta go. Do you want me to take care of this? And you go there?
I just need bandages, man.
Unfortunately, medicals are not going to come on shots. Are still being fucked. You're going to be all right. What's going on right now?
A lot of people were coming out this one exit, so I was helping direct them to go the right direction.
Keep your head down, run this way. Keep your head down, run this way. Keep your head down, run that way. Keep your head down, run this way. Keep your head down, run that way.
And there were some people that were huddled by the fence, and I was just trying to tell them it'd be safer to, to go.
You need to run that way, it'd be a lot safer. Right, run that way, go. While they're not shooting, go.
There's a pretty good amount of time in between when he was shooting and when he wasn't shooting. We were trying to just get the people to move when it wasn't, when the fire wasn't happening. The one gentleman asked for help. He said he had been shot. And so I walked him back over to the safe area.
I need help. What's wrong? I've been shot in the arm. You've been shot? I need 911. I need an ambulance. Okay, come here. Try to keep your head down. Let's run this way. Go. You have a tourniquet on? Yes, they put one on me. Logo left. I need the ambulance. There ain't nobody here to help us. Where's the ambulance? No, I need an ambulance. I've been shot. Get down. Go down. There's a guy shooting from the Mandalay Bay. He's been shot. Do we have medical set up somewhere yet? No, take him east. They're not going to come this way. Take him east. Here, come out on this side of the wall. Come on this side. East, come on. Go. Here, stay right here. He's been shot. Just relax. Oh my fuck. Relax. You okay? You okay? Come here. Here, hold it up. Hold it up above your heart. Is that fucking tight enough? Johnny! Get me out, right here. Someone have let me see that shirt. He's got one on it. Put some pressure on it. What do you got, your elbow? No, my forearm. I got my gun hurt, so. You got it. Do you have your shot in the gun? Somebody have a flashlight. That's the. Don't worry about it. Can you see? I didn't get this tight enough. Oh, it's tight. Shot here? No, it's not. He's got one in the chest. You got an upper rib cage, chest. I do got one. The upper rib cage. It went through your arm. Went through the rib cage. I'm medical. Stop. Here, put this on his chest.
The chest ain't gonna do it. It's a chest wound. It ain't gonna fucking do nothing. But this is gonna stop his bleeding on his arm. Hang in there.
Hey, you just look at me. What's your name, bro? Doug. Doug, look, I'm Sergeant Lakeland, Las Vegas Metro, okay? Relax, we got you, okay? Hey, I'm off duty cop. Just look at me. I don't care. I want help. I'm going to try to find medical. I'll be right back.
And went and got my truck and came back to get him and anyone else who was in the area. So I loaded up, I think, 6 or 7 people in the truck. And
Okay, put him in your car. Yeah, let's bring him here. Okay, I'll take him to the hospital. I got multiple guns. One here. Right here. Okay, let's get him in the truck. I'll take him to the hospital. Bring the guy in the chair with the chest. And one there. Right here, come in here. Come in on this side, right here. Let's go. Do we have any other wounded people we need to take? Not right now. Go. Shoot, just go. Okay, let's go. You turn it out. Let's go. You turn it out.
the quiet of being in the truck, it was just silent. I think I even said out loud, "What am I gonna do with these people?" As I saw the ambulances over on the other side of the street, I just made a U-turn into where all the medics were.
Line in. Please say a command.
I got 5 wounded. Listen up. 1 second, man. Hey, we have 1 critical with a gunshot wound to the chest here. Someone help me, please. Please. Hey, sit down. So much, sit down. Sit down. I got 1 critical. Okay. All right.
Were you afraid while you were filming that you may lose your life?
I didn't really think about it at all. It wasn't, it was kind of just, I said before, it was almost like I felt like I was in a movie. It was almost like I was just going through the motions, and it wasn't until days after that it kind of sunk in.
And we just we stayed low and we went up the bleachers, we went through the lounge, we went down the stairs, and we kind of ended up on the field. And I remember looking at the field and couldn't tell you why I looked at the field. In some sense, I wish I hadn't looked at the field, but all you saw was bodies and blood.
I was a paramedic for a long time. So I was fighting with trying to decide if my role was to go back and help or to help my friends get out. And one of our best friend's wife grabbed me by the back of the shirt. And I turned around, I didn't even know she was there. And she said, "Just please get me out of here." And at that point, I decided to get her out. So we ended up going out, and unfortunately, when we got out of the concert venue, we were back on the street and could see the Mandalay Bay again. So we waited for a break in the shooting and took off down the street. And I remember looking to my right, there was a body laying by the police cars, and that was it was my first visual reality. Up until then, I heard people getting hurt and knew people were getting hurt, but then I knew it was really serious.
There was a lot of heroism, there was a lot of humanity. I saw it firsthand. When I was able to get out onto the street, at that time there were not many ambulances, if any at all, but there were people in regular automobiles and SUVs taking bodies, people, into their cars and taking them to hospitals.
I've never seen anything like it. It was amazing. It was amazing to see people running into that to help other people, complete strangers they didn't even know.
Strangers, just making sure, like when I fell, a guy just came from out of nowhere and picked me up. Are you okay?
A lot of people ran under the stage hiding. So we had to get flashlights and pull everybody out of there. And seeing people crying, I look and then I see another people carrying another barricade with a lady, face down, and you can see the red bullet hole, on her back, and they were carrying her out like that.
For you to stick around and think of others rather than yourself, that says a lot about you.
It's not for me to say. I just know I just did what I could, and there was times I was laid down in bed and thinking, what more could I have done? Maybe going around looking for more gates to open up, I don't know.
So you turned your Toyota Tacoma into a rescue car.
Inside of my vehicle was full, outside of my vehicle was full.
How many can you fit in there?
Realistically, 6 in the back of the truck, 5 in the front of the truck. I'm telling you, there was a lot more than that. And once we started loading and we had plenty of people in there, I felt lost because it's such a small vehicle. I wished I had a bigger vehicle. I wish we could take everybody. Didn't want to deny anybody.
There was a bullet hole in your car. When was that bullet fired at you, and do you recall being shot at?
There's been a couple different ideas of where that came from. My initial thought was it was a ricochet and it came off the pavement. But it was interesting because I had a gentleman running to the vehicle that I ran to in a survival group later, at a meetup group, who identified himself as the person who ran into my vehicle and put a dent in my door just trying to get in, whatever else. And he said the time we were loading people, he heard the gunshot and he recalls it hitting my truck then and there. I can't prove or deny that, nor do I need to, but he's very adamant that it happened while we were loading people in the back of the truck.
Is there one image from that night that will stick with you forever?
Absolutely. A very vibrant, beautiful young girl was delivered to me. And I remember looking at her, wanting to help her, get her to safety, and she was delivered in a wheelbarrow. And I'm looking at her, just like, we're gonna be okay, or we're gonna get you there. And then somebody comes around the corner, around my shoulder, and looks at a friend of hers and said, honey, how long has she not been breathing? Hit me real hard, because I had no clue. That moment there, from everything that happened afterwards, was just adrenaline going, just reacting. I was lost at that point.
The medic tent was full. I said to someone, is there something I can do? I work in healthcare. And she said, well, maybe over there, if you go over there, there's an ambulance over there, maybe you can help over there. I just walked. I was alone. I don't know where anybody else was. So I walked over, and there were people loading people onto the rails that they make the fence with, the metal rails. They loaded this guy that had been shot up onto this monster truck. And he was laying on this rail, and they started to take off. So I kept walking. I got over to the ambulance. There was a young girl there. She was hyperventilating. She was kind of coming in and out of consciousness. And somebody said, can you help her? And I started doing the sternal rub on her, trying to keep her conscious. And she said, my boyfriend, he's been shot. They took him away. I left him. He's all alone. I've got to find him. I said, okay. I didn't cry, I was okay. I said, okay, well, we gotta go somewhere where we can get you a ride to the hospital.
Hey, you guys, get down! Go that way! Get out of here, there's gunshots coming from over there. Go that way! Go that way! Hit my head. Hey, go that way, go that way, go that way. Hey, they're shooting right at us, guys. Everybody stay down. Stay down.
So when did you find out that the shooter was firing from the top of the Mandalay Bay?
when we went back to the room and we had the news on early morning. We were in our hotel room because we were bunkered down and we had all the lights off, all the doors locked. We didn't turn the TV on until later on because we were kind of afraid. We didn't know what was going on.
You were just quiet?
We were quiet because social media started going crazy at the same aspect. So when we were there, they were saying there was an active shooter at the New York at that time. They were saying there were active shooters at the Tropicana, at Hooters. They were saying there were shooters all over the Strip. So we had no idea what was going on. This was all going on social media.
Did you think you were going to die that night?
I did. In Tropicana, I definitely started to feel pretty weak, and I was just waiting for that light, supposedly they say was going to come.
We got to the back side of Tropicana and we went up the stairs, and the turmoil didn't stop there. All of a sudden you see like a group of people like running out going, "There's a shooter inside Tropicana, run, run, run." And I'm just like, at that point I looked at my husband, I was like, "You've got to be kidding me." And so we turned around with everybody else and came back down the stairs. And I remember seeing one of the security guards like on the bottom, and he was holding the door open for like people to run in and like to the basement area. And I remember just looking at him, I was like, "Is there a shooter inside the hotel?" And he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Is there a shooter inside the hotel?" They're all running out saying that there's a shooter inside the hotel. And he was like, "No, there's no shooter inside the hotel." And I was like, "Okay." I looked at my husband, I'm like, "We're going to our room."
Made it to the first floor, got in the room, and I told everybody leave the lights off. We ended up with maybe 6 kids, I call them kids, 25-year-olds that were scared to death hiding up there. So we brought them in our room and just sat in the dark below the windows for a couple of hours before we were brave enough to turn the TV on.
These are complete strangers.
The kids were complete strangers, yep. We were sharing phone chargers. We had like 2 phone chargers in the bathroom, so we were rotating them because their parents were trying to get a hold of them.
Did you take anyone else anywhere?
No, because, well, I was freaked out as it is, but they were saying on the radio, on my radio, "Okay, well, they've closed off the Strip, they've closed off everything, you can't get near the Strip." I just went back to my my base, my taxi base, and it was so weird, Charlie. I've never shook like this. I was shaking, I was in shock, I guess. It was the most surreal 18 minutes of my life. It really was. It's like it wasn't happening. It was like I was in a dream world.
Tell us how you found out about the story.
I think I found out like a lot of people did that night. So my producer gives me the call, I immediately hop out of bed, put on whatever shirt I could find.
And my editor had actually texted a group of our reporters, "Hey, there's word that there's an active shooter at Mandalay Bay." I just kind of thought, okay, well, let's figure out if this is real or not. The second I realized that this was probably real, there was like a switch that went on inside of me. You know, going to something where you really don't know what's going on, grounded myself, and I just went to the hospital.
It was around 10:30, 11 by the time that we got these reports. Just got in my car and started driving. The highways were backed up already. Police were starting to shut down the exits.
So the Strip shut down, freeway shut down. The only cars we seemed to see on the road, on the freeway, were police cars. And it's just empty. You don't see emptiness on the Strip on any day, let alone a weekend, let alone a weekend night.
The editor texted me and said to go to Sunrise Medical Center, where some of the victims had been transported. So I got in my car, drove there, and that was a very heavy experience. There was discarded clothing in the front of the shopping center. There was a discarded, bloodied plaid shirt by the parking lot. That image has stuck with me.
Ay, Jesucristo, Dios, cuánto herido, Dios mío. Ay, Jesús.
I went to, again, University Medical Center, which is the only level 1 trauma center in Nevada. And because I knew that, I figured if this was serious, that most of the critical victims would be taken there. Stayed out of the way. I was around the corner from the trauma entrance. There was a trauma nurse that came out. I was kind of chatting with her for a little bit, and her face was white, and she just kept saying, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. I've worked here for 10 years. I've never seen anything like this. It's bad.
I think some of us might find some form of peace with just answers. It's not going to change what happened, but I don't understand it. Why haven't videos been released? If MGM did everything they were supposed to do, why haven't they put it all out on the table?
Periodically, we need to know that they're working on it. I can't just have you tell me that we're investigating it and that's it. I need to know, well, what are you investigating and what were your findings? I feel like we're being let down, and with that comes we're being forgotten.
I do find myself at night looking at videos, trying to find different perspectives of what went on, to see some of the other questions that people have out there that are not answered. There's a lot of things that they're changing as it goes on, and it seems like they're trying to make the scenario work this way because this is how we need to spin it. I'm not pushing the blame anywhere to anything. All I want to know is why this happened. Why this guy took 58 people's lives for no reason, had so much arsenal up in a hotel room that nobody knew about. How does he drill holes in walls, set up surveillance for 3 days, and nobody knows?
Do you think about this every single day?
Every single hour of the day. It's hard, you know. I try to think of the happy moments, but it won't go away. And I would just like answers. I would like to know what really happened.
Our department has worked through the night to identify all the victims of Sunday evening's mass shooting at the Route 91 Harvest Festival. We have identified all but 3 victims. We still have an active scene at the grounds near Mandalay Bay, so we ask anyone to stay away from that area until further notice. The FBI is working diligently to clear that scene.
Hey, there's shots fired in 32-135.
So he gets shot and he calls it in right away and he gives the room number. And there was police inside the Mandalay Bay when it was called in by Jesus Campos, right when the rampage began. So armed security's there as well. I'll give them 3 minutes to get to the 32nd floor, especially when you hear that shots were fired.
Right.
So then that shooting could have been interrupted right in the beginning stages. Police took at least 10 minutes to get to the killer's room. Do you have a problem with that?
You know, that 10 minutes that they said they shot seemed like an hour. I hope someone starts bringing it up again and talking about what really went on in Vegas, what really happened. Because like you said, the victims that died that day, they deserve it. They deserve to know why their loved ones were lost.
I just felt like they were being overly cautious, and I know that's easy for me to say because I didn't have to breach the room where he was. I just think that they could have done things faster. Metro dropped the ball, and I feel bad saying that.
How so?
I think more people could have been saved. And now, when I say dropping the ball now, I think they should keep us more informed. I think that's why there's so many conspiracy theories.
Oh, it's very troubling that it took so long for cops, for police officers to enter the room. Clearly, the Mandalay Bay Resorts and MGM Resorts were not prepared. They didn't do what they needed to do to protect the innocent people.
For the amount of time that it took for him to take those lives, something should have been done. Somehow he could have been stopped. There should have been more cops up there. They knew where the room was. It took them a while. It took them a while to get the okay to go up to that floor.
Why do you think they would need the okay when here's a guy that said shots were fired?
That I don't know. That I don't know.
There's a lot of information I do know, okay? But it's an ongoing investigation, and when I say I do not know, I may know. But as you can imagine, in a criminal investigation, we want to ensure the continued safety of our community, and that all those questions are answered. And I assure you, this investigation is not ended.
What happened inside that hotel suite? That's what we want to know. What happened? And how did it happen? How did they let this happen?
And they know.
And they do know. And they're not telling us.
My name is Doug Pava. I'm a former U.S. Army military policeman, former police officer, deputy sheriff, criminal investigator, and spent 20 years in the hotel casino industry in Las Vegas as director of security at 2 properties. Prior to that, I was an investigator for the MGM Grand Hotel. MGM Resorts International and the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, Sheriff Lombardo, to this date, have not released one shred of evidence to back up anything that they have said on anything that they've commented to the press. What I did initially in my investigation when I did this, I timed from the first time they knew about shots fired. And the first call that came from a police officer inside the concert venue. He calls in, we have shots fired. I timed it from that point until the time the officers arrived on the 32nd floor. And it was about 18 minutes later. Now when they arrive on the 32nd floor, the first comment those officers say is, we have a security officer who's been shot. The shots are definitely coming from room 135, and the officer, the security officer, is standing by the elevator. So my thing has always been this. If Metro police officers and Mandalay Bay security officers are in a conversation, and then all of a sudden across the security radio, they hear Jesus Campos calling in that he's shot from the 32nd floor, why didn't this police dispatcher know right then where the shots were coming from? Because then people could have immediately responded up to that floor. But that did not happen because we never hear that on the police radio. For 15 minutes, everybody's talking on the radio, where are the shots coming from?
And it was a matter between floor 29 and 32. And during that process of evaluating the floors, we received additional information where he was located, and they immediately responded. Between floor 29 and 32, and during that process of evaluating the floors, we received additional information where he was located, and they immediately responded.
Campos said the room number.
Yes.
So then why should there be any confusion?
That's exactly my point. If he said over the radio, and I didn't hear, I heard the recording they released later on, okay?
Right, he said 32135.
That's what he said.
Hey, there's shots fired in 32135.
Now, Sheriff Joe Lombardo, at the first press conference in the early morning hours of October 2nd, told the press that once we found out the shooter was coming from the 32nd floor, the officers went up there and they engaged the suspect. He left out a very important factor. The fact is they didn't go into that room. That room was not breached till 1 hour and 5 minutes after the last shot was fired. According to the police, the last shots were fired at 10:15. The one lone SWAT officer, and I'll get in that in a little bit later, the lone SWAT officer with 3 patrol officers breached that door at 11:20. So that's 1 hour and 5 minutes after the last shots were fired.
The security officer was engaged by the suspect. We backed off for immediate apprehension, and SWAT team formed and made entry.
A full SWAT team never arrived in that stairwell. When that door was breached at 11:20, there was one lone SWAT officer. His name was Levi Hancock. His team members never arrived to back him up. He had to use an ad hoc team of officers, 2 canine officers, with Sergeant Bitsko, canine officer, Dave Newton was a canine officer, and Matthew Donaldson, who was in uniform. He used those 3 officers as his team because his SWAT team members never showed up to back up their lone SWAT team officer. That question to me is very important. Where were they?
I don't think that blame lies on the police for getting there slowly. If there is blame, and this will come out eventually, is the way the call was made. Should it have gone to his boss, which is common practice at casinos, some say because it prevents the public from knowing about crime that takes place in casinos, or is that a good thing because some say if he calls his boss then can call the police, which will make it easier for them to find the spot where the crime is taking place. Sheriff Joe Lombardo has been very appreciative publicly of MGM for all the help they've been able to give through this investigation. MGM has financed and will probably continue to finance the sheriff's campaign. Is that a conflict of interest? I don't know.
The Mandalay Bay security was fantastic. We would not have engaged this individual in the time lapse that we did without their assistance.
Do you think there's some kind of a cover-up going on here? That's what a lot of people are saying that I've interviewed.
I'm really uncomfortable with the lack of information. The shooter, they're saying he had, you know, the news we have now is he has no Facebook presence, he's a basic kind of a ghost. The security guard, initially, no Facebook presence, no online presence. I just don't know how an individual could do that accidentally in this day and age.
And Campos disappeared right after the shooting, and then showed up on Ellen with a scripted response and story. And that's not just my interpretation of Campos on Ellen. That's coming from all of my clients that I've spoken to, and some who didn't want to watch it did anyways and couldn't believe that that was the story that was being provided to them.
It's just not an event that you make a comedic event. And she made it comedic in every which way she could possible. Then she went and rewarded them with football tickets.
Yeah. It was a horrendous softball interview, let's face it.
It pissed all of us off. It pissed me off. I couldn't even watch the whole interview. I read more about it, and when I found out at the end he got, you know, season passes to go watch the Raiders, I was like, this is a joke. Like, this is an absolute joke.
It was a publicity stunt, try to get their good PR back, right? They're trying to get themselves to look good again. Let's present him as a hero. Let's tell Ellen what to ask. Let's tell him what to say to make him look like a hero. And it was offensive to the 22,000 people that were there. To this day, he's gone underground. No one else has been able to contact him, find him. MGM had him sequestered in a property that they own. One of our investigators went to his house, and there is a security guard, plain clothes, parked outside of his house in a car, just an unmarked car, that is most likely employed by MGM, who hopped out quickly and cut her off at the path and said, whoa, whoa, you know, what do you need? Can I help you? No, you can't knock on that door. No, you can't go in. No, he's not here. So they're holding him. So the whole thing is a sham.
If you saw Campos, what would you ask him?
Why are you in hiding? What are you hiding?
We're a community here for you if you're part of our survivor group. But hiding makes me feel like you're not.
MGM is concerned about their liability. They should be.
The liability, the magnitude of liability on this case for MGM is potentially Chapter 11 bankruptcy for MGM. That's how much liability exists. They're going to be hunkered down protecting themselves, and that's the way that it is, because it is a major need that the people who were involved, our clients, that they know what happened psychologically and to heal from the trauma. So MGM's, by protecting their money, they're hurting the people that were the victims of this horrendous crime.
I said that incompetence led to this massacre and the death of 58 people and the wounding and injuring. And people said, why do you say that? And I said very simple. Number one, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, they coordinate all these festivals and concerts like this. The Route 91 Music Festival was almost on the corner of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard. Right behind the Tropicana Hotel, Mandalay Bay's over there, Luxor over there, Excalibur over there, New York across the street over there, MGM Grand across the street on Tropicana on the other side. Now, nobody from the command staff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department ever thought that that outside venue opened up from the top could be vulnerable to an elevated sniper attack. Because that's happened 20, 30, 40 years in this country, elevated sniper attacks in this country. Nobody thought about that. And the reason why I say that is because had they had counter snipers available standing by, they could have responded very quickly and at least countered his fire, the gunman's fire, from coming out the windows to suppress it. That didn't happen.
Were the exit signs clearly marked at the venue?
No. And I had made reference to that 2 years ago. And then this year I had made the same statement.
Specifically about Route 91?
Specifically about Route 91. That I felt like we were being herdled in like cattle, in and out. There was only one way in and one way out that we knew of.
And I also blame the hotels. I spent 20 years in the hotel casino industry, not only as an investigator, but as director in security surveillance at 2 different properties. Since 9/11, every hotel casino in Las Vegas was advised by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security that their infrastructure is vulnerable to an active shooter incident or a Mumbai-type terrorist attack. And people say, well, what does that have to do with the gunman in the Mandalay Bay? Very simple. He rolled in 23 weapons, loaded magazines, thousands of rounds of ammunition, hundreds of magazines. Now, had there been an explosive canine detection team there as stuff was rolling in, that canine, the dog, 90% with their nose, would have hit on the explosive residue in those bags. The magazines, if you touched ammunition, the guns were fired, they weren't clean out, the dog would have hit on it.
How did he get all that stuff up there? How did they have no videotape of him? How did they not hear him drilling a hole as a person next to him in a room?
The cameras in Las Vegas can zoom in so close.
Well, today with modern technology, yeah.
With technology, I mean, if I'm a bartender and my bank is short, security can pull up right up under me and watch me count every dollar and be like, oh, she counted $20 short or something. So I just don't understand with all these, I know everybody's just not looking at the blackjack table. Like, you can catch people counting cards, but we couldn't catch all this.
Why do you think we have virtually no video of the killer?
Well, we've requested surveillance footage of the gunman in the casino. Obviously, we know he walked in the casino at some point, had bags helped up to his room at some point. He did switch rooms at some point. And he, I'm guessing, was gambling because we know he was a pretty consistent video poker player. So we know that there's probably footage that exists of him around the casino, and we've requested it, but again, that's just one of the many things that we haven't had access to.
And our office sent out the subpoenas to MGM right away. And we were met with legal maneuvering and denials and refusals.
The statement in response has always been, we will, out of respect for the victims, we will address this through the appropriate legal channels. But really just hunkering down, not providing any information, fighting us at every turn. And that has been a big frustration, not just for the lawyers, for myself and for Catherine, but also for our clients. Somebody helped him, most likely helped him move 10 large suitcases full of ammunition and guns. Whether or not the employee knew that that's what he was doing, the general elevator is going to be, when you're going up and down, you're going to be seen by people. There's going to be people that are watching you. And if you're a high roller and you're just going up and down the freight elevator, that's considered okay by the employees, and that is very concerning for us that was allowed. From what we know, it does not look good for MGM. From my understanding and from what I know is that the killer had a do not disturb sign on his door for 3 days, and that went unquestioned by security.
Now the big debate is, what level of privacy should we expect when we go to a casino on the Las Vegas Strip? What is the difference between safety and security? I don't know what their policy is because MGM won't say what the policy is when it comes to stuff like that. Some casinos are already changing their policies to say, we have a 12-hour policy. If you have do not disturb on your door, we're going to check that out after 12 hours because no one should have a placard on for that long without it being checked.
MGM Resorts is running a publicity campaign to claim that somehow they couldn't foresee this happening. But I'm not buying that because I believe it was totally foreseeable based on the recent terror events, not only in the US but around the world. All they had to do was tell the people staying at the hotel in the view rooms, if they went through an airport-style metal detector, the gunman never would have been able to bring up all his weaponry and all his ammunition. He would have been stopped. It never would have happened. So mothers and fathers would still be alive, husbands and wives would be alive, boyfriends, girlfriends would be alive, children would have their mothers and fathers.
What's your reaction to people saying, well, you can't go around checking everyone's luggage, it's impossible?
You can check luggage very, very quickly, very, very efficiently, especially if you're only checking people who are just moving it up into the upper floors. And I understand people they understand their privacy is at risk, and that does have to be weighed, and that's something that the legal process is also going to address. Privacy concerns are a matter of public policy, and they are addressed on the judicial level. So I would tell people, let's see what MGM knew and what could have been done to prevent it before we start talking about, well, we're going to have to just check every bag, or we're going to have metal detectors, and our privacy's all gone. Well, I think that we shouldn't jump to those types of conclusions. I think we should take a look at the evidence, see what could have been done to prevent it. But of course, if that's what has to be done, then people have to understand when they go and stay in a large hotel where everybody's safety is at stake, they're going to have to submit, just like on an airplane or at a large theme park, to some level of security just to make sure that someone can't bring in an arsenal of weapons.
Vegas was, honestly, Vegas strong. Everybody came together, you know, and it should be like that all the time. It shouldn't have to take something like this to get everybody together. The next day, the blood drives, it was incredible. Everybody showed up. There was a 7-hour wait, 5-hour wait. They still stayed there. Everybody actually cared about the humanity, everybody, about their fellow man.
We are a lot stronger after this. Those people will never be forgotten in this town. This town will survive, but this horrible tragedy will never be forgotten. You know, this is what puts food on our table. This is what makes this city run. Without tourism, this city isn't here. This is just desert. And for that to happen, it was just a slap in locals' faces, and I felt disgusted that someone would come here and do that.
It has changed a lot internally. We are very resilient here in Vegas and a strong community, and we have hashtag Vegas Strong that we're promoting worldwide. All the hotels and businesses are showing their support for people that were injured in the event.
If you had all 58 fallen victims in one room, what would you tell them?
First of all, probably that I'm sorry that a lot of their lives were ended so quickly, so soon. But I guess that in honor of them and because of them, they have sparked this revolution across the world. It isn't even just here, it's, you know, everywhere from this tragedy, that people are doing good things in their memory. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I think that's the best thing that anybody can do for somebody. I wouldn't want somebody mourning me. I mean, I would want somebody going out and doing good deeds in memory of me.
You're so afraid to go to sleep because you don't want to have those nightmares.
Do you think about this every day?
Every day. Every day. We live, we breathe it, and you almost want not to. And we're not the same women we were before. We're two different people. We left and came home not whole. And we're finding our new normal.
There hasn't been a day that's gone by that I don't think about it. I'm grateful, if grateful's even a big enough word, to be out alive. I had cuts and scrapes and bruises, but grateful to be alive, to be able to go home and hug my kids and my family. We live near a shooting range, an outdoor shooting range. I don't walk my kids to school anymore. I don't go to the school and pick them up. We're close, they can walk home, they're old enough now, but we live by an outdoor shooting range and the sound of automatic gunfire every day comes in, like I'll hear it and it puts me right back in that moment when I look at my husband and say, what drunk idiot would set off a brick of firecrackers in a crowd of people, and the whole thing replays.
At first, the first couple of weeks, it was depression. And I just didn't even want to get out of bed. It's almost like, you know, you're going for a funeral for 58 people when you go visit the Mandalay Bay. I mean, it was very, very sad. And I had to leave work after a couple of weeks, panic attacks. And then one day I just said, I can't keep living like this, you know. It humbled me. And I'm happy to be alive, I made it. So it changed me to just appreciate good people and to help people.
The friend of mine that I worked with was passing out the bands and giving us our polo shirts to wear. 21 years old, Eric Silva. He didn't make it. And I will never take this off. Never.
So that thing's been on your wrist since October 1st?
And it'll never come off.
Who knows what could have happened if I moved differently, you know, 1 second prior to that.
There's 58 people that passed away and didn't get to live that second chapter of their life. And I feel like I need to live it for them.
Will you ever go back to this concert, Route 91?
Absolutely. You don't go back, he wins. Whoever the shooter was or were, they win if you don't go back.
How do you think the community changed in Vegas? You're someone who's lived there for a long time.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed a lot. I think it just showed how tight of a community it is. It's a big city, but it's a small town feeling. You know, and it just showed how good the people are that live in the city. It was amazing to see after what all happened. You would go to the grocery store. We went to pick some stuff up for the fire department, and you know, there's 4 or 5 different people filling carts full to take it all over the city wherever they needed it. And then you're going to the blood bank and you're getting turned down because the line's around the corner. So it just showed the support that everyone had in the city for what happened. We're 65 games in or whatever we are now. There's still a big part of us that are playing for the city. You know, you still get told that you know, the games are just a time for people to take their mind off what happened, and you know, whatever we can do to help those people heal, we're willing to do. And you know, when you're winning games, it makes it that much better.
Anything else Derek Anglin would like to add to tell all the Las Vegas fans, and just anything you'd like to add about anything?
We're still Vegas strong. Good.
Do you get a lot of customers asking you about the incident?
Yeah, I do. And before I wanted to tell everybody, you know, but now I only talk about it if they bring it up.
Right.
If they say, how's Vegas doing? And then I say, well, you know, it's okay. And did you see any of the videos? No. And then I don't really say anything. But if they say, so were you there the night of the shooting? I say, well, you asked me, so I'm going to tell you. And sometimes I even show them the video.
It tells you that tomorrow's not a given. And I never thought I'd say that here in America, that I'd be part of something like this. You take your day that you have, enjoy it, because you never know.